Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still such trouble. He's not
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Radical SR8 Championship, brought to you by JPBroadcasting. My name is Nico Hillebrand. I'm here today with Dean Biggles, and we are at the absolutely wonderful historic location in Italy, the Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari in Imola. Welcome to absolutely sun-bathed Italy. This circuit has been around since 1952, and not much has changed at it since it started as a temporary street circuit. The lap is 4.9 kilometers long, about just over 3 miles long, with around 7 corners. Depends on how you count the corners, but, you know, it's the classic. We are here in the wonderful Radical SR8 at the moment with a slightly sparse-looking grid, but I think we're still going to be having quite a lot of good and fun racing here. As we see here on the format, we will have open qualifying for 10 minutes, followed by a 10-minute race, which will be Heat 1 or the sprint race, whichever you prefer. The top 10 out of that race, after that, will form the grid for the reverse grid race, which will be the feature race. 45 minutes then, and everyone is on the exact same setup, as we all know, with one fast repair, an incident warning limit of 17x, which leads to drive-through, and then 5x after that. Of course, you don't want to find out what happens then. But let's welcome my co-commentator here, Dean Biggles, also on the cameras tonight. How are you doing, mate?
Good evening, Nicholas. Good evening, everybody. Welcome, of course, to, as you said, Autodromo Enzo Dino Ferrari. And grazie as well. Pineapple on your pizza or not, this track is certainly one of the favorites for a lot of drivers around the world. You can see it doesn't make mistakes. You can send that car airborne if you cut chicanes a little bit too much as well, as you'd mentioned. And of course, you've got the legend himself, Mr. Ayrton Senna, as his statue will be sitting alongside, watching you and making sure that if gap equals car.
Absolutely, and with a car as small and agile as this, there'll be plenty of gaps to go there around the circuit. This is just barely over 1.8 meters wide, just barely over 1 meter tall, and just barely over 4 meters long, coming in at a curb weight of 725 kilograms. I'm not quite sure what that is in pounds, but it's probably a bit less than double of that number.
There's
but,
the man, the legend himself. There is a tribute, a tribuna to Ayrton Senna. There is your championship standings, my friend.
Yes, absolutely. James Barry leading with 387 points in front of John McHutchinson and Duran Bremer. Fourth is Jamie Bird with 321 points, followed by Mike Buson with 303. David Rollison comes in 6th place with 281. Then Paul Crabb with 270. Jorge Gonzaga with 262. Rob Williams comes in 9th place with 256. Then we have Eric Harmon with 253. Then Stefan Mellis with 244. Graham Matthew, Luke Maxwell, and Mena de Graaf follow next with 239, 234, and 230 points. Then comes Josh Reed in 15th place with 226 points. Then Carl Jacquelet, Leah Henderson, Paulo Tampera, Julian Reyes, and Wayne Palmer to round out the standings overall out of this season so far. We are now in the 8th round at Imola here. We only have 2 rounds to go. After this, it'll only be Knockhill and the Nordschleife, two complete polar opposites of racetracks, and also quite a different circuit compared to Imola here. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, it certainly would be. I mean, Bathurst is where I'm at, my friend. But they've already done that one. Knockhill and Nordschleife, of course, is going to be the tricky track. With I don't know how many corners there are. Let us know in the chat how many corners. Yeah, I'm sure you know that, Nicholas. How many corners there are in the full Nordschleife and the 11th finale round?
Over 200.
Over 200. Drivers will be underway in their qualifying currently at the moment, so we'll go down to the trackside. We shall have a look, of course. And if you want to find out all this information, if you want to join the league, of course, join the league at the JP Broadcasting and JP Leagues on the discord.com, I think, /JP Leagues. And on top of it, of course, find all your information on our wonderful partner at GridFinder.
Absolutely. And of course, we're always happy to see new faces on the grid here. Very accessible, especially with a fixed setup series like this. But let's talk a little bit about the car, as we are already over halfway through qualifying. The Radical SR8. It's a bit of an older car, but something that's very, very notable. It's with a pretty much self-built engine by Radical. As you can hear, revving up to 10,500 RPM, around 2.6 liter V8 that's actually constructed out of 2 V4 Aprilia motorcycle engines.
Which is very quick. Take us around a hot lap. Well, if John starts another one, he's about to finish his hot lap currently at the moment. You can see on your track map, final 2 turns to swing it around, and then on the gasoline power down the main straightaway. Very similar to Monza as well, too, that pit lane entrance, using as much as the shortest path as possible. Yeah, get that pit lane entrance all wrong, speeding in the pit lane, and you'll be suffering a penalty. Let's take us on a hot lap, please, Nicholas.
Absolutely. Of course, we're going down the front straight, hard braking here into Variante Tamburello. That's been established after, of course, Ayrton Senna's tragic accident around here. Same year also, of course, the next chicane to be made, the Variante Villeneuve, coming up here with the left hand braking into a slower right-hander, with Roland Ratzenberger, of course, sadly perishing here. Then next up is the hairpin at Tosa, up the hill, further climbing up the hillside here. A lot of elevation change in Imola. As we get through turn 8 now, the kink over the crest now into Piratella. Left-hander in 4th gear in this car. A lot of AstroTurf on the outside there. And now, of course, one of the most iconic sections, Acqua Minerale. Through the right-hand kink, hard on the brakes, and then through the right-hander, up the left-hander, up the hill again, and now up the hill further and further, up to the peak of the hill, actually, into Gresini chicane, at the top of the hill, and now down. James Barry actually improves on his time there, puts himself 0.08 of a second pretty much in front of his rival. Now, as McHutchinson now goes down the right-hand kink into Rivazza, the 2 left-handers to end the lap here. And looks fairly clean so far. A lot of yellow sectors, but the second one was green. So sometimes, with these cars, sometimes a really, really good green sector can help, but unfortunately not this time.
And he needs to put a good lap in there, because the other drivers like Luke Maxwell and so forth are improving again. James Barry set the fastest lap just before. So John, with time running out, might get 1 more lap at best, maybe 2. As you can see on your ticker, there's give or take 3 minutes left, and they're doing 1 minute 36 is the time to beat. Let's have a look at those temperatures as well, too. It's maybe a little bit overcast, and I shall pull that information up just for everybody to get an idea of how much that may affect. If the track starts cooling down significantly, I'll put some temperature at 21 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy. So, not too bad, I'd say. Good for qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely. 20 degrees Celsius, of course, the air temperature. Very, very nice temp for these engines to run at a higher output for longer. You can really put some stress on those engines, and, still actually in the nice temperature range where you also run in a very nice temperature window for peak performance out of that, well, a very odd double motorcycle engine construction that overall produces 380 horsepower. So we've basically got, 1 horsepower per 2 kilo almost.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but lightweight, it's power to weight ratio, like anything. It's not a brick. It's not like a big, NASCAR Ford truck or something like that. Where you need a big grunty, naturally aspirated engine in this one. John's got a little bit of a purple sector on there. Well, it's going to see Luke Maxwell finish up his lap. No improvements on Zeka. Then John just sets the fastest lap there and comes back. He had to respond. He knew he was going to be starting on the second row if he didn't. And, this Scotsman doing the Scotsman things, a.k.a. putting his car on pole, the number 69 machine.
Absolutely, and McHutchinson really taking the fight to Barry there. Of course, they are in P1 and P2 against each other. Harmon actually moving up the grid as well. Bremer as well. So Aaron Bremer in 3rd place in the standings and 4th on the grid right now, but that's his qualifying over, I think. Jamie Bird comes across the line, always very, very enthusiastic with that historic shadow paint scheme from the 1970s. From both Can-Am and F1, always nice to see that. And, of course, couple more drivers still on the run. John McHutchinson doesn't seem to be improving for the next run, as we have Stefan Mellis here, coming down the run of the hill, down to Revazza. Hard on the brakes, a bit of backfiring there from that wonderful, wonderful V8. No, he seems to be a bit off, but, even when you have this, this suboptimal lap at this point, it's still always quite good to get some more running in before the race starts, just to get a little bit more routine and as much track time as possible.
No real improvement. Eric Harmon might improve. Luke Maxwell might improve. Maxwell's P5 currently at the moment. Eric is in the P3 position. If you can pull a miracle out in this final mini sector, may be able to jump James Barry. I don't think it's going to touch John's time because John's just improved. James Barry's not out on track. Eric did set a faster sector in the final little dying parts, but it wasn't quite enough to get on the front row of the race as the qualifying is done and dusted.
Yeah, absolutely. And we just had a couple actually last second improvements there. Harmon and then also Maxwell actually making their way further forward on the grid. So we're going through the grid very quickly now. John McHutchinson in 1st place, joined on grid 1 on the 1st row by James Barry. Next up, Eric Harmon and Luke Maxwell, followed by Joran Bremer and Jamie Bird. In 7th and 8th are Carl Jacquelet and Menno de Graaf. Next up, Mike Busson and Jorge Gonzaga. In 11th, Graham Matthew, and in 12th, Stefan Mellis. I think that's it for our grid for this evening, at least for the first sprint race. Mm-hmm. And the top 10, of course, so 2 very unfortunate souls will not be getting the luxury of a reverse grid, as we're waiting for the start now. Everyone else waiting also with bated breath. A lot of, tension, of course, building up before the starts here.
So's it, and so there. He's also waiting in spirit.
He's just ready
to load in. Yep. Now, John's a bit of an alien here, of course, with James Barry with the I ratings of 7K there for John and James, and 6.2 for I rating does just a simple general indication of the pace that you have. Of course, doesn't mean that somebody with like Graham Matthew and Stefan Mellis there with a 1K I rating can't do anything about it. We're about to go green.
Absolutely, and the lights are going. And it's green, green, green. Good start from James Barry there. Hutchinson really struggling, and a couple of guys at the back also got a bit of a better start compared to others. But Barry, looking to be 1st place into the first chicane here, actually makes it across, and someone's going across the grass. That is Maxwell, and Maxwell's losing out very, very hard there.
Carl Jacquelet as well, I think, has also made a mistake and gone spinning around in the opposite direction. Yeah. So, and then backs up into the fence. So, Luke Maxwell and Carl Jacquelet not having the best of starts that he possibly has. Best of starts, of course, for James Barry, yes, because he's managed to jump John into turn 1. So that's a gain there for the British driver. Big accident in the background. Who was that?
That was bodywork flying off, but it luckily reset. I think that was either Bremer. That must have been Bremer or de Graaf, I think, from the view of it. But seemingly very lucky. Actually, there's still some front-end damage there. So that was Bremer, yeah. All the front-end downforce of that car completely gone, of course. And yeah, Buson actually making his way past Harmon now through through Acqua Minerale and now through Grissini. Very aggressive there. And it's Harmon that is absolutely barely holding on over that very slippery AstroTurf on the exit of turn 15, of course. But Buson actually the biggest profiteer here of that start. 6 places up. Absolutely mental.
Yeah, the right place at the right time, actually, when there's accidents. Surviving the first lap of any race is always something you can pat yourself. There should be a little trophy you put on your cabinet, say, I've survived X amount of races, first lap, because everybody absolutely guns it like a racehorse out of the gate on the first lap to try to gain some of those positions before they settle into the usual situations to follow the leader. But in this case, you know, these are feisty drivers, and as you can clearly see, everybody is... James said this was going to be a cracker of a race. When I was chatting to him, he couldn't quite be here. He's got family commitments. But as you can see, John putting pressure on Mr. Barry. That's for the race win. John dropping that place. We'll go back in a minute, Nicholas, and kind of have a look at the replay. When we get a chance, when these drivers give us a chance.
Absolutely, because, you know, James Barry was having a great start, but I think John McHutchinson is not quite the type to roll over and just play that, so to say. Definitely there to pick up a fight again, as he's looking so close to follow, actually. And, yeah, despite it all, you know, this dirty air, of course, that affects these high downforce cars, you know, he's not really too concerned about right now, getting right up, almost into that diffuser, through Grissini there, and now down the hill again on the approach down to Revazza. As we're waiting for them, there they are, coming over the crest down the hill. Not quite in striking range yet, but getting a little bit smoother there. You know, you can see he's not quite taking off as much over that curve as Gray Matthews sends it down the inside for Revazza and makes it past Luke Maxwell. Maxwell, of course, still suffering from that horrific start that he had faced earlier, with Bremer now right on his tail as well. Jamie Bird's looking to make a move past the Graf. Looking for the inside. The Graf barely leaves that gap there. Very fair from him. And actually, the Graf also, I think, with a historic livery, if I see that correctly. Yes, he makes a big jump, though, over the inside sausage curb of Variante Tamburello there.
Those sausage curves will throw you. Lift these cars, very lightweight cars, as you mentioned, powered by motorcycle engines. They will throw your car. I mean, SpaceX will be, Elon Musk will be calling you, going, I didn't realize you have a rocket that could launch something into the atmosphere, because you will be able to hit those sausage curves flat out. And, well, it's a lot of fun. I was about to say, we're not going to have a lot of time to talk about that sort of stuff, but I was going to say there's some Russian guy that's on YouTube that just comes up with the most craziest things ever, and you think you would do it with these cars. But I think making a wooden engine with wooden cylinders and stuff like that, it's crazy. But I mean, they would be the kind of ones that would put anything, you know, put a rocket in the power of these radicals or something like that if you wanted. Nothing's happening at the moment, though. John still applying that pressure to James Barry, who's had to put banker after banker after banker laps in. James Barry's been putting fastest laps in for the last couple of laps. But still, he can't shake the Flying Scotsman.
Absolutely. And of course, that is one of the points here in Imola. You know, you have chicane after chicane with hairpins and, you know, mid-speed corners where these cars really shine. But you have these long straightaways where you constantly have the possibility to gain back up to the guy in front of you, as we have the rear wing of James Barry here, insert name here on his rear wing plate, as Hutchinson gets a lot closer, but
just
barely can't get into striking distance, right under the rear wing, you know, basically just sitting under that car. Maybe he's trying to stall his diffuser almost.
I was going to say there's similar liveries as well too when you see him from a distance, because I was like, for a second I thought John didn't even make the apex of the corner, but he's so tucked up to Mr. Barry. And they're actually starting to drop Mike Busen there in the 666 machine, slowly but surely. But of course, Mike Busen glad to be up 6 places in this race. Soon we'll go over and have a look at the replay if we get a chance. We're about 4 minutes left in this one. Luke Maxwell, after dropping 5 places, putting a bit of pressure there on Stefan Mellis for the Bounty Hunter Extended Racing Team. He's not in the place that he wanted to be, but Luke Maxwell definitely on a fight back. And he should get a good exit out of here, but there's nowhere to go, is there? Just not enough track space.
Yeah, just can't quite get alongside Melis. Melis is, of course, one of the guys he's been trying to get past for quite a while. Both of them gained a place now, thanks to Graham Matthew running into trouble. But, it's just not going well for Maxwell right now. Unlike his name, it's going Max Bad. Forgive the pun. But, in the meantime, Buson slightly keeping up with Barry and McHutchinson at the moment. But, of course, mainly focused right now on Harmon. On his rear-view mirror, right behind that, we have Bird as well, who managed to get past the Graf just a little bit earlier. And
Oh!
That's actually a bit of contact.
Yep, let's check up.
Big lock up there for Harmon.
It's actually going to allow
Luckily, both of them.
Jamie Bird should take advantage of this situation now as a check-up.
Yeah.
Before they had to lift off there and allow Bird to get on the loud pedal, try to follow, get through both of them. But easier said than done, as they're going to be all going around the track because you got to judge their braking points as well. I'd have to say good for Eric. He realised it was a my bad moment, so he did lift off a little bit. Almost lifted off enough to allow Jamie Bird through.
And I think Bird is definitely, he's on the faster side right now. He's definitely visibly comfortable in this car. So despite the qualifying not quite running as he wanted, he's all over the back of that duo now, joining the fight for third place. And, it's basically just all about staying consistent now. You can see that these two guys are starting to slow each other down with the fighting. Something that, I kind of expected maybe from Barry and McHutchinson to happen as Harmon takes a bit of a wider run there, and I think...
Got it.
Was that Buson just... Oh, no, actually, yeah, there we are.
And James Barry and John. That was a last-minute dive, I think, there from John. I thought he almost had the overtake done, but didn't quite. We'll see if we can go back and have a look at a replay of that one, but we'll just double-check to see if anything's going to happen down into turn one as they cross to do another lap here of the heat race with 2 minutes change to go.
For the outside to Variante Tamburello. It would be Dorbing, but these cars don't have doors. You just get in on top.
Just jump in, yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. And, these guys, my goodness me. I was going to say, like I was saying earlier, these guys are fighting. They're not losing each other time somehow because they're just both so on it right now. But that dive bomb definitely lost them around a second there. And, whoa. Hutchinson came in like a torpedo there, as Sebastian Vettel would say.
Yeah.
Just barely missed the corner himself, and Barry was able to get back through. But in the back as well, Jamie Bird, after I think Harmon probably had to let off after that off in Gresini. Jamie Bird now going for the over and under, well, getting made for the over and under almost by Buson, but Bird can stay ahead. The Shadow Livery car staying ahead there, moving up to third place now. And trying to stay there, of course, even though Buson is still all over the back of that car.
Yeah, this is where he gets the overtake done, right here. And James Barry Jamie Bird, has been patiently kind of following these two. Once again, eventually got the job done. But it's not over just yet until Barney waves that flag because they're still going to battle. But he's starting to get a little bit of breathing space. It's more about Eric Harmon on the back there of Mike Buson, who's hit that 6 places they gained and now... up to 5, but you still take that one. Here we go. John's going to make another run, maybe on the last lap, but it will be the last lap of our heat race. So time to get it done is now.
See how close he got there in the slipstream. That's absolutely incredible. But he's not thinking of going alongside there still. Both of them heavy over the sausage curbs. Not losing too much time there, but like Hutchinson is kind of losing the touch there right now. Still closing in again on that very, very short straight between Tamburello and Villeneuve, but oh my goodness. He's just not quite able to get close enough there.
Yeah, when the overtaking opportunities now on, there are a few. So where could you do it? That would be last and late breakers, old Daniel Ricciardo style, if John can try to throw it in anywhere. But so far, every single time he's mounted an attack here at James Barry, Barry has definitely had the answers to respond.
Yeah, absolutely. He had no way of being baffled here. But McHutchinson, actually, that is a slightly squirrely car there by Barry, but McHutchinson not able to profit on that just yet. Both of them just barely separated by 0.3, but McHutchinson is running out of attack vectors here. Going down to the last braking zones now at Rivazza, down to through that right-hand kink. James Barry hard on the brakes for the last time this race. And yeah, still not quite in touch range there, unless McHutchinson is trying to get alongside here, but I don't think he's going to be able to do it, as James Barry goes across the line now and takes the sprint race win, followed by McHutchinson, sorry. Jamie Bird in third place, Mike Buson in fourth, Harmon in fifth, then Maxwell in sixth. Actually recovered quite well in those last couple of laps, as we completely missed him there. Actually, yeah, let's have a look here. Very nicely timed. Oh, actually, sorry, that was the first corner there with Maxwell losing out basically everything there. But a very good recovery drive from him there.
And I think it's Carl Jacklett. That's... see, I was really trying to get those replays in before we progress to the next session, but unfortunately, no. This is the only downside with the session being advanced kind of like pretty quickly, is that we can't get a chance to go back and look at those replays because that 10-minute sprint was just chaotically fun.
Absolutely. And I mean, honestly speaking, Luke Maxwell, after that first corner, it's really, really difficult in 10 minutes to gain that much back. But after P12, to come back up to P6, it's a very respectable performance. And of course, the guys here, these guys get, points down to P26, then in this feature down to P36. So quite a couple of points to get given out here. And of course, pole position is 1 point. Fastest lap in each race is 1 point as well. And we have the standings here again. James Barry followed by John McHutchinson, just barely a tenth apart. Jamie Bird in third place, Mike Buson fourth, Harmon fifth, Maxwell sixth after a fantastic recovery drive. De Graaf brings it home in seventh. Bremer after an off later on in the race in 8th. Gonzaga in 9th. Graham Matthew after some trouble early on in the race as well in 10th. Stefan Mellis, some mistake later on in the race that eluded us as well in 11th. And Carl Jacklett after that crash at the exit of Tamburello on lap 1, unfortunately. And I think he actually lost the lap there because he came in for that fast repair.
And that's all that she wrote on our first heat race. We'll have a reverse grid, of course. We had 12 drivers. Just to go over that racing information again, as you can currently see, a full reverse grid, 45-minute race, or top 10 reverse. As it say, full reverse grid, top 10 reverse. I'm confusing on that one, but it's a top 10 reverse.
Absolutely. And the thing is, it's always this delightfully chaotic mix with a reverse grid, with James Barry and John McHutchinson now having to make their entire way through the entire grid in front of them, pretty much, except for, of course, Jacklett and Mellis. But those two now have the chance, of course. Those our top two of the first race and our top two in the championship, of course, they will try to get through the field in front of them as quickly as possible. And as the great Ayrton Senna used to say, if gap car. And if that gap stays open long enough, Mellis and, of course, Jacklett could have that chance to actually make their way through. These are the standings, of course, before the sprint race. And, pretty much just think of it here. Sprint winner gets 30 points, second place 25, and then it goes down in 1 point steps. So not too many big movements here, but Jamie Bird has been able to close in a little bit on Johan Bremer there. 21-point gap, which has gone down by at least a couple of points in the last race now.
Yeah, but it will help. This is where Johan Bremer has to kind of really capitalize on this reverse grid situation. It's going to have the track advantage, obviously, over those drivers that are of James Barry and John McHutchinson, which have to make their way back through the field, as you said, because they'll be starting in P9 and P10. I think Ivan Bremer would be starting a little bit further up. I'm quite sure specifically where he finished. Now, let's have a look, actually, where he finished in Heat 1, and we can find out exactly where he will be starting. And that'll obviously be a good opportunity for Jamie Bird to sort of seize up many points as possible. So... And Mike Buson, after that spin, he can definitely try to take advantage of situation. That's the good thing about having these reverse grids, isn't it? Sometimes is that if your first race isn't that good, you certainly have an opportunity for the second.
Not just that, also this, sprint and feature race format. You always have that hope for the second race. Okay, my qualifying wasn't great. I'm maybe not so confident in overtaking here. I can still try and get basically the tail end, at least, of the reverse grid positions, and then have a very, very jolly good time, at least in the beginning of the feature race. Of course, we have to remember here as well, we will have a mandatory pit stop in the feature race. So, as you addressed earlier when we were going around for the fast lap with McHutchinson, that pit entrance can mess you up good.
And another thing, a couple of different things that drivers don't practice enough, which they should, is, well, for one, standing starts, because you can get out there and do banker laps over and over again, which you see people doing practice doing. That's one thing, that's great, but that's if your car's up to full speed, temperature in your tyres and all that sort of jazz. What about when it's cold, it's starting on the line, standing start? And also, how often do you practice your pit stops? Because I've seen so many mistakes in pit stops where drivers clearly got a lead or an advantage over another car. They get into their pit stops and they miss their pit box, or it costs them a little bit too much time, and all of a sudden, all those fast laps they did are out the door because they have to battle their way back up through the field because of that one mistake.
Absolutely, and that's always that big risk as well. If you're trying to gamble on pit stops to get past your opponent, you might make a mistake during that pit stop and lose a couple seconds, and that gap is gone anyway. Anyhow, we've got our grid for the feature. Graham Matthew is in P1. Jorge Gonzaga follows him on the first row. Then the second row, we have Joran Bremer and Menno de Graaf. Then next up, Luke Maxwell after his great recovery drive, followed by Eric Harmon, Mike Buson and Jamie Bird in row 4. John McHutchinson and James Barry, our battling duo for the win in the last round in 9th and 10th. And of course, Melis and Jacqueline in 11th and 12th as the lamps go out just in time for me to finish. And Bremer with a fantastic start, immediately shooting past Gonzaga and looking to attack Matthew into turn 1 as we have a couple moves up and down the grid, but not quite enough yet. Barry actually dropping down almost to 11th place as he's barely now able to get back up. McHutchinson moves up to 7th place immediately. Really, really good start from him, and definitely what he wanted in exchange after that disastrous not being able to beat his championship rival, as Bremer now makes his move into into Tosa, not turn 1, going for the overall lead.
He has the lead, and it's crucial to Bremer to do that. We kind of hinted on that during the small break, because his main championship contenders are now, you got John down in P5, and it wasn't the best start there for James Barry. He's in P10, dropped a lot of places, probably had to take some evasion actions at the start for the first couple of corners there to make sure that he didn't slam into anybody. They're all pointing in the same direction, which is a good sign. Jamie Bird in the P8 position where he started on this reverse grid, but once again, more important. Oh, and I think that's de Graaf into the key letter. Yes, it is.
And
Mike
he has to nurse that car home.
Track 2. Let's have a quick look at the replay of that one. And that's definitely a high-speed impact. We still have a bit of a battle going on. James Barry has now made his way back up past Mike Buson. And John McHutchison's decided to take that pit stop. He's done this before in the past. He gets it out of the way. It's a mandatory pit stop, as you mentioned. He just wants to get out there and clear an area. He feels there's too much in a dangerous spot right now to try to get those overtakes done. He'll do it in time on the track with fastest laps, no doubt. That's what John will do. At least try.
Absolutely, and it's definitely a bold strategy, I have to say. Even though he had a very, very good start, but he just doesn't want to lose any time behind the others on the grid right now. So immediately into the pit lane, already now on the pit exit, going past de Graaf, who's still stationary there. I think after getting towed, of course, having to wait a little bit longer, and probably using that fast repair then.
Becomes three wide. Maybe, perhaps, no, 2 wide. At the moment, they're electing not to try anything too risky. Luke Maxwell as well.
Gonzaga convincingly going past Matthew, and Harmon following it right after that, wanting a piece of the cake as well. Right behind that, of course, we have James... Well, actually, no, not quite James Barry yet. James Barry's back there, just coming out of Aquamanelada now. And, yeah, but these two are still... they are very much fighting. There's Eric Harmon. Flies down the inside with a big lockup from Graham Matthew. That tire is now a square. That circle makes a square.
He came from Monza to pull that move off there. It actually probably caught Graham Matthew off guard because Graham Matthew had a big lockup. Less than Graham Matthew actually had a lockup, but it caught. Oh! And speaking of Graham Matthew, unfortunately, got into the kitty litter. He did have a lockup before. Maybe that flat spotted his tyre then, or at least overheated his tyre and couldn't quite get into the next couple of turns. But what an overtake before. This is where you can throw a blanket over these cars right now from P2 Luke Maxwell down to this man, Eric Harmon.
Absolutely. De Graaf also coming out of the pit lane, just now barely missing most of the guys from being lap traffic, pretty much. And we can see now, very quickly, Mike Hutchinson around 27 seconds back, I'd say, after that pit stop. So if we're looking there, I think that's pretty much 35 seconds. There we are. That's the overall gap. There we are. So I'd say pretty much how much time would you lose there? I think that's about 45 seconds that you'd probably lose then from the service that we had with Mike Hutchinson taking there. So, that is quite a bit of strategy that has to be played in there because, of course, that's a huge amount of time that you have to play with, and of course, a lot of time, a huge window that you have to take into consideration for, where you're coming out of the pit lane in the end.
Yeah, I'm getting from the telemetry up here at 42.5 seconds for the overall pit stop. That's at the start of your entrance to the pit lane and the exit to the pit lane. 13.63 seconds stationary in your pit box. So that's going to be the target that the other drivers, the spotters and so forth, engineers, will let them know. That's what you got to get. Now, naturally, you don't have to take on gasoline or anything like that, do you? That's just a mandatory pit stop because otherwise it'd be fueled heavy. And, of course, a bit difference later on is if you come in late, you will have a lighter fuel load as Eric putting the move on. At least James Barry's putting the fastest lap in, but he's a little bit further back here. There's Barry. He'll be catching this pack pretty quickly as you see a battle between Harmon and Jose Gonzana.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Barry, I think he's a bit in a bad position right now, though, honestly. Since, we did see Mike Hutchinson go for that early pit stop. That gap is slowly shrinking. 1:37.1. That is a very, very decent lap time. But, of course, at the very, very front, I think that's Bremer. Yeah, Bremer is running 36.8s right now. But other than that, and, Barry 36.7s. Jesus. Just catching up to the guys in front. But he will still be caught in traffic, of course, later on. And, of course, lose some time there. So I think Mike Hutchinson right now is really pokering on, pretty much just everyone else in front, fighting for their life against James Barry.
So far, we had that one retirement there from De Graaf that's had a heavy impact into the fence. Thankfully, the driver's okay, but has elected to retire from this race with too much damage. And then the rest of our 11 gladiators are out on track, with John coming last place at the moment. We know he's the only one taking a pit stop. And thinking of pit stops, there's Jamie Bird. So he's coming down at the moment and getting that mandatory pit stop out of his system. And we want to actually we'll probably go back to have a look at that one because I don't want to miss the action, of course, with Eric Harmon and Jose. Because James Barry's caught this pack now. He almost caught this pack. And James Barry, as you could see on the timing tower, or at least had set the fastest lap or so before. There's your last laps from the drivers up there in the timing tower. So 36.7s, 37s, and 36.9. So you can still see that Barry's still putting some pretty quick laps in. But more importantly, John McCutcheon is 37 flat. So John's not down in the 36s yet. And you'd think he would be with clean air.
Oh, he just got it, yeah. 36.769. So barely behind. So very, very barely behind the lap time of James Barry there. I think 0.02 of a second slower this time around. But he also now has one of the other pit stoppers behind him. Jamie Bird just coming out a couple seconds behind him. So I'd say that Gamble already worked out quite a bit. Because if I recall correctly, Bird was in front of him when he first came in.
That will be very interesting because, Bird's pit stop was slightly slower. Bird did a 44.7 overall. It was a 42.5. So that's about 2 second quicker pit stop makes a big difference. This is what I'd mentioned too at the top of the show. Like those pit stops that you practice and you rehearse can make all the difference in some places. Otherwise, you just got to do it on track. Then you've got to just come up and try to make up those couple of seconds, which is not easy. As Stefan Mellis will head into pit road right now. So everybody electing to take these pit stops on individual laps so far. We haven't seen drivers follow each other into pit road for a pit lane battle.
Yeah, I think it might also be, that Mellis also saw Bird coming into the pit lane, is trying to maybe cover him off a little bit, even though I think it'll still be not so close, but, trying to go for the pit stops that might give him an edge against the others. And I think we had James Barry just now also go for the next move.
What's happened to Mike Boost
went
here?
Past... Oh, yeah, that's a good question.
Oh!
That's...
That's going to hurt your back.
Yeah, I was going to say that, especially in those lighter cars, it's not really nice. A good friend of mine, Dennis Lind, actually broke his spine before on one of those sausage curbs in Zolder. Or well, broke his back, and not a very great experience.
Yeah, because people know especially when you're like open wheels and cars like this, you're laying like essentially almost like on your back. Everybody knows how you sit in an open cockpit, and it will hurt, and especially the light of the cars and stuff like that too. They're not designed for comfort, for suspension and stuff like that too. So it's not like your road car where you go over a pothole and you're like, ooh, I can feel that a little bit. Try to feel it when you're laying on your back in a sports car that doesn't have the greatest of suspension.
Yeah, absolutely. Now back to the road with James Barry here, making his move on Harmon, I'm pretty sure. This time he'll have to fight a bit more for it, though. Last time was against Gonzaga, his teammate, and Harmon definitely not gonna roll over and let him just go past there. That was quite close. That was 2 wheels on the grass for James Barry.
Yeah, everywhere. Trying to find track anywhere on the track to possibly get past, but Eric Harmon's just going, no, I'm going to make this radical as wide as possible and try to force James Barry into a mistake. James Barry, clearly the quickest driver on the track, but one thing to catch, another thing to overtake.
Yeah, absolutely. But despite this, last lap, 1:36.530, the fastest lap of the race so far. So looking for that bonus point as well. John McHutchinson, 7.79, so 0.2 slower at the moment, but I think now slowly, the last lap for Eric Harmon was his personal best, 37.0, but of course that is half a second slower than James Barry behind him. So I think now might be the time when McHutchinson's strategy might be coming into play.
And I wonder if James Barry's going to be kind of contemplating himself, if I'm not going to be able to get past Eric here, should I just go on a pit road? Because obviously if I'm clearly quick and can pump these quick laps in, then how much is Eric slowing him up right now? Or is he actually helping him up? Because it looks like a bit of a slipstream gives you a bit of a help, because if James Barry can put in those banker laps there whilst he was still battling, that's pretty impressive. And that's something that John can't have at the moment, as Mike Bousson will go on a pit road. Because John's by himself, so he doesn't have any car. But nope, forget that ahead, sir. James Barry is going for it. Job done. And no fight against that this time. Last lap was a bit of a dampener, though, for James Barry. That was a 37.082. We have Mike Bousson, his teammate, in the pit lane. Actually, sorry, no, not Mike Bousson, his teammate. Jorge Gonzaga being James Barry's teammate. Mixing up Bousson with John McHutchinson now. But speaking of John McHutchinson, new fastest lap of the race, 36.492. So that's 0.6 of a second faster. I think Mike will get out ahead of Jamie Bird as well. Whoa, it'll be close. Jamie Bird will be on full power. No, he will not be able to. So there it is. Bousson stayed out later. So this undercut may well be working. Certainly going to come into play a little bit later on when the other drivers come in, because we'll have to see if John McHutchinson's strategy has paid off. He just needs to consistently do these laps. We haven't seen him lighting up the time in tower with any purples, but as long as he's doing, well, forget about it. He just set the fastest lap on the last lap. So now he's starting to heat up. Now he's starting to do the Scottish things, which is go fast.
Play the bagpipes while driving. Go faster.
Exactly.
Play Braveheart over the team radio. Either way, absolutely stunning pace from Mac Hutchinson right now, but of course, he did go a little bit slow over the last couple laps than James Barry, so there's still a lot of pressure on him. Meanwhile, no pressure on him at all whatsoever right now, Jörn Bremer, for Sim Race Sweden, sitting comfortably with a 36.8, his own personal best last lap, and 3 seconds gap. So very, very good race for Bremer so far after a disastrous race in the sprint.
Yeah, he needs this one. Like, he was in a good position for the reverse grid. He had a couple of drivers that I think to himself and perhaps even to us that he feels a lot quicker than, certainly by his pace, his qualifying pace. And now, and he disposed of them in the first lap. So that was very, very important to clear them so he could get on and do his, Flying Dutchman pace. And do his Max Verstappen. Get up the front of the road there and you don't see him for the rest of the race kind of scenario. But he still has to do that pit stop. And let's just give you a little bit of you can start crunching those numbers as well, my friend. There's your gap to the leader. So more importantly, we're going to talk about Jono in P8. John McHutchison's. Now, he is 36 seconds away from our race leader here. We know that pit stop's going to cost you 42 seconds. To me, they'll be like, okay, John's got it in the bag. But it doesn't always work out that way with the iRacing timing, but it's certainly going to be close. And if I was Ivan Bremer, I'd be kind of contemplating very soon, how do we react to this, do we? Like Weeze, if he has a teammate, a spotter, an engineer, how do you react to it? Somebody in the background's got to start doing that mathematics, aren't they? And going, are you quick enough each lap right now to cover him off, or should you go in? James Barry certainly, once he's got clean air, is quick, and he's going to be on the back of Luke Maxwell now, actually, in no time. There he is, too. So, Bazza, James Barry, on a rampage right now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's, well, I'm just wondering how long the tires will hold up like this, because, of course, these guys are quite on it, and especially with James Barry going through all this dirty air shenanigans as well. That's, less downforce from the aerodynamics, less grip from the aerodynamics, and that's more grip in the corner that's required from the tire. So what happens then? The tires heat up a bit more, the tires wear a bit more, and with heat degradation as well, if the tires are at a hotter temperature for a longer time, well, it's very easy what happens to rubber when it gets hot. It gets, a little bit softer, a little bit stickier, up until the point where it gets too hot and you lose more grip. Either way, it wears off a little bit more, and James Barry doesn't quite seem to care about that yet. Getting a very good run through Aqua Minerale, and now through Gresini goes past to P2, just putting Luke Maxwell behind him.
Yeah, Luke Maxwell's going to be like, I think he's saying, all right, James, if you're going to get past me in Aqua Minerale, then Minerale, you've got to do it the hard way and make it stick, and he did, James Barry. Now, going to be looking up the road there for Ivan Bremen. This is the first time Ivan Bremen, I think, is going to start to feel a little bit of pressure in this race since he managed to take the lead of it in lap 1. There he is. He will start seeing in the back, in his mirrors, just a little bit of a dot of Mr. Barry coming. But
I'll be honest, I'd feel a bit. I'd feel more than a bit of pressure with James Barry in my rearview mirror. Basically, just imagining, the classic old line on American rearview mirrors. Objects in your mirror are far closer than they appear.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on that one. Let's have a look at our sectors, and there it is at the moment. So we can look at the sector 1 differences between Bremer and Barry, and that's something as well too that your spotter will be letting Bremer know. Who's going to be chunking away quicker. The gap at the moment, you can see on your timer tower, is 3.5, 3.6. There it is. So they're even Stevens on that sector 2. Wonder if Bremer got the call up, right, to say, you've got to get on with it now, because... And not only, they've got to be thinking about John McHutchison, don't they, in there as well as another element, because John taking that pit stop isn't on the screen battling with him right now on the track, but once he comes out, once these guys come out of pit stops, then they very much might have a mirror full of a Flying Scotsman.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you got to see as well, McHutchinson, even though he has older tires at this point, they are also worn in. So after the tires have been on the court for a couple of laps already, it's a little bit worn in. They're not quite as new anymore, so they're a little bit nicer to drive, a little bit more consistent to drive. And this entire time, of course, he has been driving without any dirty air. He's just been going past, using that free air as best as he could. And quite honestly, despite despite James Barry being on an absolute charge, I gotta give some credit to Iron Bremer there, because that is an absolutely very, very good, consistent drive there. That's 36.388 from James Barry. And despite the pressure now on Bremer, that's a 36.589, so just over 0.2 slower. So that is still a gap that he can uphold a little bit more, but that is how long that gap will go, and when these guys will go into the pit lane, to maybe decide, okay, I can afford this fight right now, I can't afford it right now. This is all up in the air still, as we are slowly approaching the halfway point of the race.
And another element is that you're getting a nice slipstream can actually help you out in these cars, because since Barry got past Luke Maxwell's still been hanging on to him. It's just like a vacuum cleaner sucking you in there. And Maxwell set the fastest first sector time just before as well too. So even though Barry clearly is super quick there, Maxwell's doing exact same times as Ivan Bremer. So he's happy, to be in that place. Of course, he might want to feel to be in P2, but then you're in P2 breaking that dirty air. So sometimes it's just good to hang on. And Eric Harmon just a little bit further back as well too. May be able to catch on the back of Luke Maxwell and get sucked into him and help him out with a slipstream. So that's very important.
Yeah, I
still
think...
race leader, 30. Look at that. So look at that. Even Stevens, isn't it? Bremer's just is matching.
Reducing that
Barry.
Even that time. That's really, really phenomenal stuff right now from the Simrace Sweden driver. Really, really good running. It's looking close, and last lap as well. So the top three in the last lap. Actually, god damn. Sorry for using the Lord's name in vain there, but Eric Harmon as well. So we have the top three, 36.51, 36.415, 36.497, and then Eric Harmon finding some better rhythm as well with a new personal best 36.3, less than half a tenth behind the fast lap of the race of James Barry so far. So everyone is itching a bit closer again.
And John, more importantly as well too, in the clean air, there he is there, 36.8. So he was slower by about 0.2 than these top four that are battling it out. And remember, John had... So maybe you might be right. Maybe he's starting to take a little bit too much out of his tyres. Or perhaps we know that the Scotsman's quite smart. May have just been maintaining those tyres and saving the extra for the remaining half of this race later on to attack later on.
Absolutely. At the moment, he's around 36 seconds back. We know that the delta that we have for these pit stops is around 42 seconds. So he's looking very, very nice and snazzy right now. And right now, I think the top three or top four around would basically be coming out in front of or around the marker of Jamie Bird. As Eric Harmon now with the new fastest lap of the race, 36.24.
He caught the slipstream.
On an absolute mission right now. He's got the slipstream, he's got the fire in his eyes, he's got targets locked on, and full afterburner setting.
This is the part of the race where you can clearly see that where the cars that are following are actually at a huge advantage here. They actually, it's maybe, I'm not quite sure if it's going to be more punishing on the tyres or not, but there certainly is making it easier for them to get the pace. It's the cars that are breaking the air, like James Barry, they just can't seem to pull away anymore, can they? Like they were at the start of the race once they got past a couple of overtakes, but not now, not this level of the race. It's certainly not for those drivers that haven't been down a pit road yet, which they can go at any time they want. They do it on the last lap if you really want, but you have to do it. And that is the top 7 drivers. You have to make a pit stop. Everybody else has, and John Hutchinson will be the net leader on pit stops. But as you can see on your timing tower, he is 35 seconds away from our race leader at the moment.
Absolutely, and James Barry still, of course, slightly and very, very slowly catching, but at this rate, I think Bremer is in a very, very good spot right now, because he would still come out pretty much without challenge. So I think as long as Bremer hits his marks, he would come out pretty much in second after the pit stops, after John McHutchinson. And the others are basically slightly running into danger of being... well, in an attackable state by Jamie Bird. So it's really interesting to see how these guys are developing right now. And again, so Bremer slightly off pace this time, 36.6. the guys behind 36.3, 36.4, 36.4, rounded up to 36.5, but they're still all keeping pace. They're all still trying their best to hang on with each other. Everyone's slipstreaming, and I think this is far from over.
John's starting to pick it up a little bit, so he's had the fastest Sector 4. Now, we're going to use a little bit of this SDK software engineering. Because you can see on your track map at the moment, as we've got all the cameras pointed at race leader, see the P icon on the track map? That is the software guesstimating a pit out position. And as you can see, the pit out position is looking at squeezing him out behind Jorge in P5, between Jorge and Carl Jacklett. So, and that's, as you can see, a clean piece of track there with no traffic around. That's what the software is predicting, but it's not always accurate, I find, Nicholas. But it's all we really have to go. I don't think it would be that far away from John,
mainly,
to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's mainly right now predicting from pure pit service time, or from a reduced impact, so to say. Because the one thing about Imola here, we used to have the chicane at the end of the lap, of course, like the motorcycle chicane here. But in this case, we have this long straight. Just like Monza, you're approaching at a high speed, you're constantly flat out past the pit straight. And of course, in the pit lane, you have the pit limit. You're a lot slower. You have the service. You have to slow down and then after accelerate again, as we saw with Jamie Bird and Mike Busson. And I'm just not quite sure, that the software right now is calculating that in.
Yeah, because, I don't think it does, actually. So, it just never seemed to be that accurate that I've seen it before in the past. So we'll get you an idea.
You just lose so much time there.
So the intervals are, well, the closest battles you could see there. Luke Maxwell still just hanging on to James Barry. James Barry starting to chip it away from Luke. Eric Harmon has dropped off now. He was putting some banker laps in to try to catch Maxwell, so he's fallen out of that slipstream. Mike Busson and Jamie Bird, so they're line and stern there 9 for 10, but they've taken their pit stops already, but so they may be able to get something back later on in this race when the other drivers make a pit stop. We'll also keep an eye on the timing tower there for the last times, for the last lap times. That's crucial in this strategic part of the race with, 15 minutes, I'd say, to go?
Yeah, absolutely. And John McHutchinson, actually, notably, last lap 2 seconds faster than the car ahead of him. It's Graham Matthew. And I think that could get quite interesting because, of course, closing in is one thing, going past is the other thing. And this is the first bit of traffic that McHutchinson is actually meeting since his pit stop. So he has to make quick work of that to make sure that he doesn't get held up. And yeah, Graham Matthews not quite looking to be just rolling over and moving out of the way there. Slightly missing his turn-in point, and again slightly missing his turn-in point, but McHutchinson can't get past that. There's just not quite the gap there, but now he'll enjoy a very nice big cup of slipstream as he pulls out, and I think very clearly makes his intention clear to go past on the inside now. And yeah, I think Matthew not really fighting too much against that for now, but holds against it, well, more than Hutchinson would want.
Should be the Battle of Scots too, at least, because Graham Matthew was showing a little Scottish flag on the rear wing, just the same as what John has. Well, because John doesn't have it there, but John's got the Scottish quilt covered all over that. We know that John's as Scottish as William Wallace. So he's disposed of, which is crucial for him because his consistency of lap times is what can perhaps get John right up into a podium position, if not a race win here this evening. But I don't know, more and more that you see those lap times that Ivan Bremer still are capable of achieving, that's covering off the rest of the field. Still looking good for him. It looks pit stops. Yes, it is. I was wondering. He's getting very close to it. So this is going to be absolutely crucial. This is where you earn your paychecks. This is where your practice makes perfect in pit road right now.
Absolutely. I saw a slight lockup there as well, so hopefully no speeding in pit lane for Ivan Bremer, making his way to his stop, and that seems to be quite good on the marks.
Yeah, but you got a little person out there with the timer. 7 seconds, 8 seconds. We don't usually close up and follow the pit stops that much, but in this particular case, because the field's spread out so much, it is crucial. Good exit. So that's 13.12 stationary. That's the quickest pit stop so far that we have. And he's not too far, of course, from the pit lane exit from his good starting position.
There
Back
comes
out of the field,
McHutchinson.
he's out of John.
He's in front of McHutchinson.
Yes.
So the overcut, actually.
There's Jono.
Incredible there. So, my goodness. So Iron Bremer really playing it with a stacked deck here.
How much
Really,
for that
really well
software
done from him.
prediction, isn't it? It was supposed to put him out between P4 and P5 with Jorge there and Carl, but it didn't. I knew it was going to be close to John, but I didn't realize John was going to be that close at the end of the day. So this is going to be good. Now you got to remember too, it's going to give you a bit of motivation, isn't it, for the Scotsman? Because he's going to be seeing, all right, here he is. This is it. This is the guy that was leading the race. He's now just come out ahead of me. So John's going to be thinking, well, when Barry comes to pit and Luke Maxwell come to pit, they're going to be either right next to me or they're going to be behind me. So he's got to get a move on right here.
Not just that, we had the gap around 2.5 seconds as Bremer came in, and McHutchinson is 1.6 behind, and well, 1.5 now, but you know, that's getting really, really close now for when Barry, Maxwell, and Harlan are coming in. Of course, Maxwell is his teammate, so we're going to try and make it a little bit more interesting. Maxwell, of course, right on the tail still of Barry, half a second behind, and quite a lot of slipstream to be eaten up. And Jacklett is the next one into the pit lane.
Yeah, Carl Jacklett. And we'll drop back, unfortunately, behind the likes of Ivan Bremer there and John McHutchinson. But different strategy for Carl. So they need to work out one out and see how they can get some, maybe in the top 10 in this race. But I'm not quite sure that's going to work. More importantly, James Barry. Time to put in those banker laps there. Just do your Schumacher days. Schumacher used to win a lot of those races during pit stops, of course, by timing the strategy perfect. That's when Ferrari would make good pit stops, wasn't it? Back in the day. Or when Ferrari don't make any decisions.
20 years ago.
Or when Ferrari don't make any decisions at all, like in Austin, Texas, right? They ended up doing a good job with pit stops. Was it Austin, Texas? I don't know. One of those races earlier.
Mexico as well. Like, the last two races, they've been quite strong.
Eric's gone off track somewhere, mate. I think he has. So he's pushed it. He's pushing the absolute limit of it. This may very well be a podium. Unfortunately, it slipped through his fingers here.
Ooh, yeah, just a little bit too unsettled. Can keep a spin from happening, but that, of course, still costs precious, precious, precious time.
Especially in a pit stop race of this one right now.
Yeah.
We'll see if Eric can manage to... but then again, it can happen to anybody, especially on this tricky track, and especially as the temperatures and the tyres start to fall off the cliff a little bit. All sorts of jazz. Let's see at the moment, James Barry. It's going to be looking at the pit stop. Still crucial, as we know, there for Ivan Bremer, because this race win will certainly keep him into this great contention for the championship. Remember, after not having the first best heat race.
Yeah, indeed, especially considering, it's a 5-point advantage if you get first place here. So if first place is 40 points, then second is 35. And of course, the fastest lap right now would fall to actually Eric Harman still in that mad chase he put on earlier. So yeah, it's putting it quite close right now. And I think, oh my goodness, actually Maxwell also 0.2 faster in the last, well, in lap 18 than Barry. The second to last lap, and then losing a 10th again. So, but I think Barry might be actually a bit on the limit right now, probably waging his options if he wants to go pit now, because Maxwell is getting closer and closer and closer. Is he looking for a move here? Not quite yet, as they go through the Ravazza again. But is James Barry going to look for a pit stop now? I don't think that he wants to fight with the teammate of his main championship rival. He's going in.
Yeah, exactly. Got to be going in. I think Barry might realise this is going to be crucial right now. There's going to be your pit stops and pit stops. If we know all drivers have to have perfect pit stops. His gap to Bremer was 36. Well, for the race leader, yeah, but just before 32. I was keeping an eye on it. Now, keep an eye on your track map. Where is Bremer? There. Final couple of corners to go. We know that John's behind him. Where's Barry? Buzz up. Is sitting there going, come on, guys, we're going to get out of the pit stop. Come on, go. Gas it. Bremer's going to be coming down the main straight away now. Flat out. James Barry hasn't even managed to get out of pit road now. So here we go. Bremer through. What about John? Side by side's close.
Gets through as well.
Gets through as well.
That was closer than I anticipated.
Do it on track, isn't it? So this is going to be good for the rest of the field. Luke Maxwell's going to be thinking, wow, all right, now his spotter, his engineer's going to be up. Mate, you're going to be probably coming out behind Barry behind these cars. So that's now going to be a net P4 when you do come into pit road. And that's a lot of cars to overtake as well, too. So it's worked out perfectly for Ivan Bremer. He still managed to maintain this gap over John. John's undercut strategy didn't quite work out too much for getting the race lead, but he is on the podium. But it ain't over yet because James Barry coming out right now on the pit stops is ready to hunt him down. And we know Barry's been certainly super quick on this track.
Yeah, but gotta say as well, McCutcheons is on top of his game right now. So even with older tires after that first lap pit stop pretty much, 36.256, so less than 200ths of a second slower than the fastest lap of the race overall, right behind Erwin Bremer, who was around 0.2 slower last lap than him on his personal. There's Gonzaga coming in. We also had Harmon come in with Barry, but there's another move to be made here on track. It's Harmon already on the back of Matthew, and Graham Matthews still not have been in the pits.
Still not at the pit stops yet. No, he's going to go in right now. That's probably good, and I think that's going to be a relief to Eric Harmon because he just wants to get on up the road there and try to catch James Barry and the rest of the drivers up the road there. But this is going to be Ivan Bremer's had the luxury of having a nice little gap to the lead before the first round of pit stops. Now he's got those mirrors full of a Flying Scotsman, as well as James Barry, not to be taken for too light-hearted as well. So these three here, I'd have to say there, Nicholas, probably would end up being your podium three, but which order will it be? I'm a poet, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah, that is the big question right now, and quite honestly, I'm wondering when Luke Maxwell will also come in and where he will come out, because he's been putting in fairly decent lap times as well. Slightly slower than the guys chasing him right now, and chasing him down obviously for that pit stop gap. But nevertheless, I think he could still. Yeah, there we are. I think that could, if everything goes well, if he can nail that pit stop, that could be a two-pronged attack by Team Radline against insert name e-racing team of James Barry.
So we'll go to the blimp cam up there, so we kind of get an idea of more what's happening. As you can see on your track map, Bremer's now coming around the final corners here. There, and of course, he's chased down by John and James Barry. So out of the exit of the pit road right now, there comes Bremer flat out. There's Luke. It's going to be so slow, painfully slow. He's going to see 1, 2, and 3, and then he's probably going to be about a second or 2 seconds now behind. There.
Yeah. I think he waited a bit too long with that pit stop. Especially because, Barry's now back up to speed now.
Barry's just got
that last lap, 36.206. So going even faster now, all over the back of McHutchinson, who's at this point, slightly struggling, I think, to get closer to Bremer. He's been closing that gap bit by bit, chomping away at that. But, at the meantime, Barry's been getting closer and closer himself at far better steps.
So everybody has taken their pit stops now, finally, and as we're down to the last 10 minutes of this race, just shy of it, for the sprint to the end of our feature race. So this is it. No driver needs to get down there and do any changes. All the strategy's over. Well, the strategy's done and dusted. Who do you think's really benefited the most from it? You'd probably have to say John, hasn't it? Because before he went into the pit stops early, I think he was only running around P6 or something like that.
I think you profited a fair bit. Definitely a good choice to stay out of all the skirmishes. But nevertheless, I'd say Bremer profited from the most because he just chose the perfect timing to still come out in front. Really good run from him.
Yeah.
But now both of them right on his tail. 3/10 and 2/10. Barely the gaps between those two. But, that is a lot of slipstream to be had. And Barry actually getting the double slipstream. So that gap is sinking, almost looking for Both of them making a move, and both of them think slightly better of it for now.
Bremer's going to really have to go full concentration here because he's the one that has no slipstream to advantage from. Everybody else behind does. And you also got to remember that too. If you overtake too early, like if John does get the overtake done, or Barry get the overtake done, they're the ones that are going to be breaking that air. So they then the ones that won't have that pace anymore. You saw that before, didn't you, when you stick your nose out for an overtake? All of a sudden you just bog down because you have no more slipstream. So
yeah, and that's the big problem, you know. Even though these cars are quite aerodynamic, you know, a bunch of cheese wedges or door wedges, so to say, a lot of downforce created, and you know, as much as that's great for cornering, that's still adding rolling resistance as well. Of course, you know, it's more force that your wheels have to overcome at top speed, well, at speeds to keep pushing the car forward.
oh, they throw those cars, as you said, over the sleeping policeman they call as well too. I like what John's got on his rear wing on his team Radline. Chill, it's a long race, and that's exactly right, especially in a feature race like this. And these drivers are all aware of that little bit of mistake there from Bremer, and that's going to be costing huge. He may even lose it out to James Barry. He's going to have the exit speed here right now, and he will. Into turn one, let's see how it's going to pan out. Bremer like that could have been going from P1 to P3 just like that. James Barry's going to be sizing him up right now. Double slipstream.
And this is looking tight. Bremer looking for the outside. Hutchinson covering up the inside to keep Barry from going past, but Bremer's just running out of power there. Oh well, running into more drag there, of course, and loses out a little bit more. Tries to take as much momentum through the Tamburello Variante there, and barely stays ahead into the first part of Villeneuve, second part of Villeneuve as well, and now on the inside. Blocks off Toaster, but he has to switch to the defensive now, and McHutchinson is slipping away now.
Yeah, because of this battle's actually costing them a little bit of time there, and in fact it's bringing Blue Maxwell into play. You can just see that in his cockpit, so he'll be happy to see this battle up the road there because it's allowing him to turn this three-way party into a four-way party. It's just one mistake, isn't it, for Bremer? It was one little mistake, and it cost him that lead of the race and almost cost him that P2 position. But he's been fighting tooth and nail for the Sim Racing Sweden driver to make sure he keeps Barry behind him. And once again, he's making little errors. Maybe those tyres are starting to come off there after the man was looking good to win this one. He still can. And now John is starting to slip away a little bit here, and with 5 minutes left to go, that's not the time when you want somebody to start slipping away.
And I think it's also the difference, you know, Bremer was basically untouched for the first part of the race, was just able to run his own race, able to just define what pace he'd want to run and still keep a comfortable gap. But under pressure, it's of course a completely different situation, as James Barry now looks for the inside for the Variante Tamburello, makes his way past and cleanly gets in front. But can Bremer counter, getting a little bit of a different line, closing in a bit again through the slipstream, but can't get alongside, of course, for Villeneuve.
Bremer's got to think, I got about 2 laps to get this done now. So keeping the slipstream there, try to force James Barry into a mistake right now and get the overtake. He's got to be probably thinking, okay, P2. Unless John makes a mistake, which he doesn't do it very often for the Scotsman. This is what Bremer can do here for damage limitation. He's still looking good for a podium. He's also going to be thinking about Luke Maxwell's catching him pretty quickly as well too. Once Luke gets into that half a second range, you're within that slipstream, and you know how powerful that has been here in Imola so far.
Absolutely, but I also got to say, through that second half of the lap now, so after Tosa, Pilatella, Acqua Minerale, and now here as well, a lot more clean through Grassini, and keeps it at just over 3/10. So if he can keep that gap up at Rivazza, he basically is back in striking distance again, while James Barry can't quite get the same amount of slipstream from John McHutchinson.
And they need the lap time. You can see 42 minutes, of course, so you won't be seeing the white flag from Barney just yet. Well, John won't be. He'll only be seen at about a second.
Yeah, 2 more laps to go now.
Yes. So Bremer's time to get back here and damage limitation, get that P2 back from James Barry, which is crucial because these two are the championship, are ahead of him. So he wants to be able to finish ahead of them. As Mike Booson's gone into pit road right now, very, very late. I think he'd already been there earlier. This is his second pit stop. Maybe that could be been off the track too many times. Naughty drive-through penalty.
Yeah, that could very well be. With the tarmac runoffs and AstroTurfs inviting very much to go a little bit quieter there, as we can see that wonderfully at the exit of Tosa. But I have to say, the pace of these guys, even this late in the race, is just simply astonishing. Earlier, we were raving on about 36.2s, 36.1s, they're now in the 35.9s.
Yes, they're doing qualifying laps now.
Incredible stuff right now, as we are coming around to almost start the last lap. And James Barry is destined to close down that gap if he goes a little bit faster. Not quite with that only minor pace advantage. That's 9,000ths that he was only faster in the last lap.
They just picked it up to another level, haven't they? John wants to try to take this race win too. It's just one more corner here to start. We believe to be the final lap. It's 44 minutes on the clock. We'll see if we can see Barney anywhere around here waving his flag. Can't quite see. There is a white flag, so that's confirmed.
There we are.
So this is it, make or break. Don't think anybody can catch John right now, but can Bremer try to take this one away from Baza? As Luke Beckles just dropped in there, probably to settle for that just shy of the podium. But it's game on now. Qualifying laps from the drivers. Pedal to the absolute metal. Push it through the flywall if you have to. Just gas it.
120% throttle needed now to make that last bit work. But James Barry bringing that gap down a little bit again, but I fear it's not going to be enough unless McCutcheon makes the mistake. And I think McCutcheon is going to try and use every little bit of that gap as a safety buffer, on his older tires right now, to just coast on home pretty much. Not try to push it too much, but of course he knows that he can't really relax yet. It's still a couple of more corners to go. Next up, coming up to Gresini once again, over the highest part of the circuit, over the right-hander, the left-hander, taking all of the sausage curb, and none of the AstroTurf, not risking anything this late in the race. But now making his way down to Rivazza for one last time, and I think that might be settled. Please don't let me commentators curse anyone here. But he gets through the final corner well indeed. And both of them gaining 8 places throughout this race, with Bremer getting back into 3rd place. John McCutcheon wins the feature here at the Autodromo Enzo Dino Ferrari. James Barry, his championship rival, right behind that. Ewan Bremer in 3rd place, very well deserved. Luke Maxwell brings it up to 4th place. Harmon to 5th place. Then Jamie Bird brings up 2 places, up into 6th. Comes across the line now. Ore Gonzaga follows him into 7th place. Then next up is Mike Bousson with the very, very late pit stop. Maybe delivering that very late drive-through penalty, depending on which it was.
Oh, it is actually having only one pit stop there, so maybe it was just the one. I thought everybody had made their pit stop before, so maybe it's just telling lies to us. Cal Jacklett and Graham Matthew should be finishing it up. It's bringing it home. We like to see that. Graham Matthew getting a little out of shape there on the final couple of corners, but we'll still finish it, which is good there. As he had a little battle, didn't he, with his countryman there of John. He managed to get through and get another P1. So, John, I mean, both of these drivers battling away through the field. We knew that kind of they would, but it's just a little bit unfortunate, isn't it, for the Flying Dutchman just to not be able to hold on that good strategy there and dominating for most of the race to unfortunately see his 2 championship rivals finish ahead of him.
Yeah, just heartbreaking stuff in the closing stages at Rivazza. That one mistake that unfortunately cost him oh so dearly. Here are the final results, and after all of that strategy talk, all of the pit lane strategies, all of the overtaking, and the reverse grids, we still had less than 2 seconds between our top 2 runners after 45 minutes around here.
There are your results at the moment, as you said, for our feature race. Some of the drivers are celebrating and heading back into pit road. Any other surprises that you thought on that feature race with the ended up being the pit stop strategy race?
Yeah, actually, very quick note. De Graaf actually managed to, well, basically come out a bit later and still finish the race. So, despite not quite being able to run for fastest laps or anything, being able to get some points in the end. So, not wasted effort for Manu de Graaf at all. But unfortunately, of course, that early, very unfortunate turn of events for the Dutchman.
See if any of the drivers want to have a quick chat to us in a minute. So we'll go over, that's the feature races, of course, with John James and Ivan. And, of course, for our Heat 1 sprint race, it was a very similar situation, of course, but without the Flying Dutchman. This time around was James Barry and John, so both of them exchanging with Jamie Bird in that P3 position, Mike Boosen in the P4. But, of course, you get a little bit more points for the feature race than you do for the Heat race. Still quite good with a smaller grid, taking advantage of that situation. How that will pan out, of course, in our championship, you'll have to do the math on that one. Of course, go to GridFinder, which you'll be able to find out once all those points are updated. But certainly going to be looking good for those two, isn't it? James Barry and John McHutchison's getting P1 and P2 in both races between them. So that'll add up a little bit more of a points advantage over Ivan Bremer. But damage limitation, you have to say, for Ivan Bremer in the feature race, because he'll still get a chunk of points out of that finish on the podium. Jamie Bird and Mike Booson will, unfortunately, lose a few more points away from those top three in the championship. But I believe we do have James Barry, if you would like to grab our race winner of Heat 1 and our P2.
James Barry, are you here?
Yeah. Hello, guys. How are you?
Bazza?
Very good.
Yep, I've called you Bazza.
How about
mate.
yourself?
I've given you a nickname right now, Bazza. Yeah, well, you got the Heat 1, my friend. A good battle there with John, and then eventually he got you in the feature race. How was it?
It was tough. It was very tough. John really gave me a hard time in that first race with his attacks, and I think I did a good job defending. And then second race, I knew he pitted early, so I knew he was going to be kind of doing his own laps, and I was trying to decide when I should pit, if I'm going to get held up behind these guys I'm trying to pass, and how good my own pace will be. And it's tough over the course of such a long race at this track. It's just quite kind of physically, I struggle a bit, but kind of held it together. And in the end, I mean, John was just a bit more able to get past Ivan quickly. Fair play to him, and yeah, it was really even kind of battle in the end. Really enjoyable race.
Really, really good run from both of you at the top there. And actually, we were talking about it late on in the race, 35 nines falling on the timing table. You're actually getting a fastest lap as well. So, also reducing the damage you're taking. I think actually, I can't recall, did you get a fastest lap in the Heat 1 as well?
I don't remember, but yeah, for sure. Every point counts, I guess, and the slipstream helps, doesn't it? So I was getting those fastest laps at the end because I had a bit of slipstream, so that helped.
Absolutely. Any shout-outs you want to do after all?
Just you two, I guess, for taking the mantle with James's absence, and hopefully you enjoyed it. And it was really close racing, so shout out to all the guys who, I think the top 5 there were all kind of on pace to potentially challenge a different kind of thing. So it was really fun fighting everyone there.
Well, we definitely enjoyed it. Sounds like you enjoyed it as well, which is always great to hear from the drivers. And once again, congratulations for a very good evening here, for a very good couple of races. And, a very great to see charge through the feature race as well. James Barry, ladies and gentlemen.
Cheers, thanks, see you next time. Bye.
Yeah,
right, next up, we have our feature race winner, the man who very barely got defeated in the sprint race. With us now is John McHutchinson. How are you doing, John?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good. Sweaty after that one.
I can't blame you. That looked like an intense last couple of laps in both races, actually. And I can't say that I would think your entire feature race was a relaxing one after, pitting very, very early, far earlier than I honestly expected, and then basically having to clobber out pretty much 28 qualifying laps, so to say, in Michael Schumacher early 2000 style.
I had a little contact early doors. I think I had a little bit of damage, so I decided just to pit and take the quick repair and fuel to the end, and then just try and hope for the best, see what happened. Worked out okay.
And very
Yeah,
lucky.
one could say so from the win.
Yeah, it was very well. Just watching back at the replay when you managed to get past Ivan Brabham and made one little mistake there, didn't it? And it only takes one little mistake for the Flying Scotsman to seize the opportunity, and then that actually probably purchased you a little bit of time, because then James Barry had to really fight to get past Bremer in that one. How was the slipstream, by the way, too? Because it seemed to be quite almighty and powerful, didn't it? For a lot of drivers but managing just to hold on to somebody else in the slipstream. And for you as a race driver, how hard was it to pull away from the other drivers once you were braking the air?
No, it's effective from about 2 seconds out, but then once you're almost level with the car or right behind them, it just seems to stall. You don't really get that extra overspeed. Which is good, because it shouldn't be too easy to pass. I keep saying that you should have to force a pass or make a pass. You can't just sail by in the straight every time. But like I say, it is effective from about 2 seconds out. You do get maybe a tenth or two on the long straight, and so it's fair. It seems all fair to me.
Oh, it was definitely fair on track and off the track. A really good race to watch. Would you like to do any shout-outs?
Shout out to Luke. His family going through a bit of a tough time just now, so shout out to Luke.
Always great to hear, with the teammates supporting each other, of course. And Luke actually he was looking very good in the middle of the race as well. I was actually theorizing whether he tried to go for a bit of a two-pronged attack, so with you in front of James and with him trying to get from behind, but it didn't quite work out like that. Nevertheless, very good result, I think, for the team.
Yeah, I think the off-tracks played a part tonight as well, because you couldn't push as hard as you wanted. We only had 17 in a 45-minute race. That's not a lot around here. So they were having to not take it easy, but, be wary of off-tracks. So I think that played a part in the lap times.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, nevertheless, you persevered against the challenges, against the off-tracks and the other incident X's, and still with a very good run, with a very good victory in the end in the feature race, and some stunning strategy work there.
That was just luck.
No, there's no luck when you
no
got
need to be so
Flying
humble.
Scotsman.
They were two cracking races. I really enjoyed the racing there. It was really good, really hard and fair. So I threw everything at the first race. Couldn't get by James, and he tried in the second race. So no, it was all good. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, but as well, on the start, you were cutting through the field like David Coulthard's chin through an iceberg.
Oh, you throw that one at a Scotsman. I love it.
I've got a better chin than Coulthard.
or you're throwing it like Jackie Stewart throws Rolexes around, or something like that, maybe even as well. No.
He's got plenty of them.
But yeah, nevertheless, very good racing evening here tonight. 2 more races to go. Are you more confident for Knockhill or the Nordschleife?
Oh, both. Knockhill's 40 minutes up the road for me, so I've been around there a few times. Looking forward to next week and finale at Nordschleife.
So the man looking for the home field advantage, and then also looking forward to the finale in the Green Hell. Thank you very much for racing, and thank you very much for your time, John Nick Hutchinson.
Thanks, guys.
There you have it, and there is the championship, as you said, too. Round 9, the penultimate round there, on the 4th of November, and then the 11th of November would be the finale. Still £18 entry fee. I'm not quite sure if you can follow in the GridFinder. Of course, just go to GridFinder and type in Radical SR8 Championship, or find it too, and all the information in the description below if you want to still be a part. I'm not sure if they're still taking entries, of course, into the last couple of rounds, but certainly I'm looking forward to a new season if they'll be signing up if you want to be a part of where the racing comes alive. And so, Nicholas, you want to wrap it all up there, my friend, and Let everybody have a lay down. I got some more racing to do as well. Two more today, actually. That's the joys of being on the other side of the world, mate. We've got US and Australian time zones to cover later.
Yeah, absolutely. So from all around the world here, from Germany, from Australia, from Scotland, and from America, this was the Radical SR8 Championship at Imola, the 8th round. 2 more rounds to go. Knockhill and the Nordschleife. Don't miss it in the next 2 weeks. And, with plenty of overtakes, plenty of pit stop strategy, plenty of action on and off the track, and plenty of fun to be had by drivers and spectators alike. My name is Nico Hillebrand. I was here with Dean Biggles, with me in the commentator booth and on the cameras, and hopefully we'll see you again next week.